CRM needs to change. It needs to be about the seller. When it's about the seller, where it's actually providing them insights for what to go do, how to behave, what data to provide, what insights to provide, what content to provide, what moves do I need to go make. When that's what it's about, I'm all over it every single day and every single day.
Hey y'all, welcome to Selling with Social, the podcast that helps marketers increase marketing qualified leads, sales reps to shatter sales results, and sales leaders to grow as leaders. Each show, we interview sales, marketing, and social media practitioners, leaders, and influencers to help you connect, close more deals, build stronger relationships with clients, and improve your sales productivity. I'm Mario Martinez Jr. You're now listening to Selling with Social. Byron Matthews, here we are again. Round 2 on Selling with Social, my friend. Thank you so much for joining me here again.
Hey, I appreciate being here. Thanks for having me twice. This is an honor.
Well, I told you it was the first time that we've invited a guest. So all of you listening in, as you know, we have brand new guests every single week. And back in May, we had Byron Matthews, the CEO of the Miller Heiman Group, on with Selling with Social. And that conversation was I was so juiced over that conversation that I said, I got to have you back because there were some topics that we didn't cover. And guess what? We're going to cover them now.
Pressure's on. And I'll tell you a funny story is I have had a few people reach out to me randomly and say, I had no idea you were born with 3 thumbs. I can't believe I shared that story.
No, I'll tell you what, not only have I talked about it, because every single time since that show, I say to everybody, tell me something that nobody would know about you by looking at your social profiles. And they'll give me something. I'm like, not good enough. And they're like, what do you mean it's not good enough? Well, look, I had Byron on the show, and Byron had 3 thumbs, right?
Lame.
2 on one hand and 1 on the other. And I'm like, and he was an all-star football player. It was brilliant. I just make up all kinds of great stories about that. That was awesome that you shared that.
Feel free.
But now here's the thing. Round 2 requires that you got to share something that nobody else would know about you. So now you got to top the extra fully functioning thumb from the episode we had in May.
Wow. That's okay. That's unfair because there's no way I can top that. I will answer that, but at the end.
All right, we'll come back to that one. So do me a favor. Everybody heard my story about Miller Heiman. They remember when I was 21 years old, I invested $7,000 of my own cash, and it's been 20 years of leveraging strategic selling, conceptual selling, and now with our own practice, Vengreso, as the digital sales transformation service provider, I think about these concepts all the time. But everybody knows I love Miller Heiman and that I've loved the training. But do us a favor, tell us a little about yourself. We've got new listeners, sales, marketing. We've got sales leaders, business owners. Tell us about yourself. Tell us about Miller Heiman.
Sure. So quickly about myself, I live and breathe for sales performance. I mean, I started my career at Accenture. And it was one of those random moments where you're in a room. It was a start group. I'm right out of college. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I knew I was going to be a consultant, but that was about it. And I didn't even really know what a consultant was. But I'm in a room. There's like 24 of us in Chicago. This guy walks in and says, hey, I got a project. And it's in sales. And nobody raised their hand. They're like, oh, God. And, I raised my hand right away. My dad grew up in sales, so I loved it. So I was like, I'll do it. And it turned out to be part of the designing a CRM system, and ultimately turned out to be a relationship we had with Tom Siebel, Accenture did, and then ultimately became the Packer software that we all knew as Siebel way back in the 90s. But that one project charted my course. Everything I did at Accenture was in sales, whether that was CRM or process or comp, and I just wanted more and more of it. And so I just kept doing it. And then I wanted to be a practitioner because I can't just be a consultant. So then I became head of sales at a company, and it just rolled from there. And ultimately, I hired Miller Heiman as a head of sales, and I went through this transformation with them that literally changed my career. It was 2008. The economy crashes. We had just rolled out Miller Heiman, a whole bunch of programs around this big sales transformation, and our company was staring down some major problems. We were in the financial services industry, and we came up with one strategy in 2009, and that was to outsell everybody. And I had to sell like my own leaders, like, no, sales can be a strategy. Like we can just punch above our weight for the next couple of years, deal with this recession, and fight our way through this. And that's the only thing we need to do. Convince the team to do that, and that's exactly what we did. We outsold everybody in 2009, grew sales 6%, 2010 by 8%. Our nearest competitor was down 20%. And when I look back at sales as a strategy, damn right it can be. And it changed my career, and so I just love sales. And ultimately then had this, amazing feeling for Miller Heiman, and now I'm in this chair.
And you've been at the helms here for how many years now?
Took over in 2015.
All right.
And we've gone through quite a transformation. We've acquired 5 businesses. We've invested heavily in technology and consulting services, and really sort of a full suite of, one of the world's largest sales performance businesses.
That's phenomenal. And the success obviously is going to keep on going. You guys have done some really cool stuff, and we're going to be talking about some cool stuff, and you're going to be launching some really cool stuff by the time this podcast publishes. So
probably.
I'll be excited to talk about that. Well, listen, we're going to get right into some nuts and bolts. Last time we left off at talking about sales, talent, profiling, how that's evolving, where that's going. And honestly, as I think about this particular issue, I think I gave an example last time of some of the things that I've struggled with. Mentality of sales leaders. And by the way, I sat in the seat as one, my former role, VP of sales. So all those listening in, it's not me versus you, it's us, right? And I just look at the whole talent profiling and what we're doing as sales leaders. And I truly believe it's evolving. And I think you and I, we're on the same page on that. Tell me, what does the future seller look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a lot of discussion around this now because it is different. I mean, that's the one thing. I think we've always, in important times, said, oh, no, the future seller is different. But actually, in this case, we really, really believe it because we're actually seeing that. One of the businesses that I mentioned that we bought was a business from IBM called Talent Analytics. And it came with assessments. It was all about assessing talent, and specifically in our case, sales talent. It came with enormous amount of data. And as we really got in, really studied this stuff, we're seeing a very specific trend. And that is, if you had to look at a sales profile and really be generic about it and say, well, there are some things about a profile that is all about their EQ, about the ability for them to navigate situations, to be able to influence, to be able to build relationships. And then there's the IQ part, like their cognitive thinking, their ability to process analytical data, their learning agility, their adaptability, their ability to process information. The profile of sellers was heavier on the EQ part. Didn't mean IQ wasn't important, just heavier on the EQ. Well, the future seller, it's the opposite. It's actually becoming heavier on the IQ, where EQ still is important, but not the dominant trait. This cognitive thinking part, this category is becoming more and more important. Well, why is that? Because the sophistication of what's required to win now is a lot more. There's a lot more to being a winner out there. You've got to be able to add, insights. You've got to be able to provide data. You've got to be able to interact in a way that's more about building a relationship. You have to not inform, but inspire. To inspire takes a different level of traits. And so you're starting to see that becoming more and more dominant in the successful seller.
Talk to me a little bit about the concept of inspiring. We touched on this on the last podcast, but I want you to drill down on this. As leaders are listening in right now, and sales folks who are listening in, I don't think anybody doubts that there is an element of inspiration. What does that mean? Define that for me.
Yeah, so I think a generic way of doing this would be what a seller used to be really successful in doing is you show up and you ask good questions. You really try to understand their needs. And that was a skill in and by itself. And it's also part of building a relationship and being able to uncover needs. Of course, that's still important, but that doesn't get it done anymore. Just understanding a client's needs isn't going to give you the ability or the permission necessarily to take your solution and go ahead and sell it. You not only need to understand their needs, but take the context of what they've said their needs are and educate them and inspire them, provide data, challenge them in their thinking. Maybe it's about the solution that they've already predetermined that they thought that they need, or the problems that they already predetermined that they thought that they need, or how they're framing out everything around their specific situation. You need to challenge them in a new way. Now, again, this is important because it's not just about showing up and telling them why they should be up at night. You've got to do it in the context of their needs. So solution selling isn't dead, like some folks think it is. It's evolved. It's more than just asking questions, but it's also about providing a perspective or value. That ability to provide a perspective or value is inspiring to a customer. And that's what I mean by that.
Let me walk you through an example. Coach me. Tell me if this is where you're thinking at. But I literally just got off a call, and it was with our new director of sales here at Vengreso. And we were talking to a potential new client. And one of the things he was talking about was, hey, we've just launched this program, or in the last few years, we launched a program where we're using LinkedIn Sales Navigator. We've had some, really good success here and there, but we're really trying to focus on getting better enhancement, better training on leveraging social so that we can drive better results. And I think most people who are selling digital sales training programs, right, would naturally go into, okay, yeah, we can absolutely help you there, right? But my question to him was, well, what do those current results look like? How are you tracking those current results? And what does better look like? Help define that for me. So then that led down a particular conversation of here's what we did. And then actually the conversation came out was, well, actually, now that I think about it, we've actually only been tracking this manually. So it hasn't been really that good. And so I said, so you're not even sure of the full scale of whether or not it's been a value or not. No, I'm not really sure. Well, let me ask you this question was my next, I said to him, how do you propose that you track the success? And the answer was, we don't really have a good solution. So I described to him the solution that I had implemented when I sat in the seat as the VP of sales 3 years ago that got me the opportunity for LinkedIn to invite me to come and speak at their annual users conference, right? A 48-minute session in front of thousands of their customers that said, here's how I was able to drive 100% rep adoption, and 100% of our reps out of 120 US domestic sellers, 350 internationally, were able to actually attribute a sales opportunity, and here's how we tracked it, and here's how we proved the empirical data. I told him that formula of how we changed the CRM. I said, would that be of help to you? Would that be of assistance? He's like, oh my God, why didn't we think of that? And my next comment was, look, that's probably the best free advice that you'll get from me. So if you like, I'm happy to have a call with your sales enablement or sales operations director, manager, VP, whoever it is that you wanted me to talk to. And I'll explain to them the secret formula and how to go about tracking this stuff, not just for, by the way, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, but for any sales tool that you're using. And he was like, oh my God, brilliant. Yes, absolutely. I'd love to have you. Is that what you mean by inspiring a client?
I mean, you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it, because you could have gone straight to solution way earlier. And I would have argued 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it would have been a natural thing to do, because that's the selling was. It was just easy to ask good questions, understand the need, and go right in for the kill. But the way that you stopped and you kept asking more questions that challenged him in thinking about really what's underneath there, really what kind of data, really how you're going to track this, really what the metrics are. And then after that confusion in his mind, then you actually bringing in a perspective on what this could actually look like. That is absolutely what I'm talking about. And that's, I mean, to be honest, we've redesigned our core sales methodology that we invented in the 70s to be now called strategic selling with perspective. Because the idea of bringing in valuable insights to inspire your customer is what the new selling model of today is all about. Now, methodology is one thing, but you got to have talent. And you've got to be able to connect those dots. So you have to have the intelligence. You have to have this ability to bring in this perspective. That's not that easy. So that really is shaping what this new salesperson is all about.
So how do I, as a leader though, Byron, how do I profile that type of person in my talent sourcing? Yeah. Is it questions that I'm asking? Is it tell me stories? Are we expecting a salesperson to tell a story like I just told you and say, hey, is this the example you're talking about?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, listen, this is the thing that blows my mind is find me a business that doesn't have a product strategy. Find me a business that doesn't have an IT roadmap or an IT strategy. Or how about a marketing strategy, right? Yeah. They all do. Find me a business that has a talent strategy. You know one of those? Like a real talent strategy. Right. Now, ultimately, you won't find a lot, because when you double click on what a real talent strategy is, there is a methodical way to answer the question that you just asked, which is, how do you truly assess talent? Number one, what is the right profile, the right traits for me, right? Okay, first you got to figure that out. You got to study your high performers. You really got to understand in your selling culture what those traits are. Then you got to have an assessment instrument that actually measures against that. then you've got to make sure every single person in the door gets assessed against that assessment criteria. Mm-hmm. And so that helps you understand the raw material in people, right? These are the things that I can't not do, meaning I either have courage or I do not have courage. Right. No such thing as a courage class, right? Now, that's how you do it. And again, I mean, we're working with this organization right now. It's unbelievable. We assessed 1,500 salespeople, right? And we also built the tool for their incoming people, of course, but all their existing, we put them in these categories. And we took all their performance data up against these categories and kind of how they ended up shaking out. And the natural inclination of the team was, oh, hey, people that don't have those traits, we got to throw a bunch of training on them, especially if they're low performers. What we argued is not actually, I mean, I know that might make sense, but no, that's where you need to methodically see if they're in the right position. Maybe there's other places in the organization for them. They're actually not your future. Okay. Yeah. The people that are performing really well and have some gaps in traits, those are the people that you want to invest in, because your high performers, they can even get better. They can even perform at a higher level. So the short answer is invest in assessment capabilities and develop a talent strategy. That is the answer to your question.
And what should I do as a sales leader? Should I go march into our VP of HR and pound on their door and say to he or she, what's our talent strategy? Show me that. What do I do as a sales leader?
You know, hopefully you've got a sales enablement team. If you have a sales enablement team, that's one of the things that this trend in selling can go fight for, because the idea is they are the glue across marketing, IT, HR. This is a business problem. As a sales organization, we need a talent strategy. Go to your sales enablement team and say, listen, you need to go work with the functions to go build this. HR, go figure out what our talent strategy is. Go study our high performers. Go figure out what the traits are that make them different than the rest. Go figure out how many of my existing people have that. Go make sure every single person coming in the door now has those traits. I want that methodical. I want science around it, and I want to see the metrics. And then we got to enable our sales leaders, because now if I have a viewpoint of what makes a person successful, I can give that to a sales leader by person coming in their door, which is all the people that work for them. And their next one-on-one, when they sit down, they'll have more context to actually coach them. They'll understand, hey, this person needs a little bit more help on the analytical support. So when it comes to naturally being able to respond to your client, maybe that won't be so natural for everybody. They'll know that they need to prop them up with more sales enablement help, with more analytical support. And that's just a different and more contextual discussion that requires a talent strategy.
So here's our new app, man. The app of the future is an AI-based talent acquisition tool or technology that can go out and assess all these things that we need to have assessed as outside assessments to bring that in. Or are you telling me you're already developed it?
We've already developed it, man. Come on. Come on.
I see that up just so well.
That was like, I'm a major league hitter. You just threw me a 60-mile-an-hour ball right down the middle and gave me 2 shots at it.
For all the listeners listening in, I can't see Byron's face, but as I'm starting to say this, he's smiling, and I'm thinking, I must have said something that is going to you did this already. What did you develop?
Well, listen, it's something, again, in today's sales world, underneath this thing in sales enablement with this trend, all of a sudden, all this stuff's become relevant and all this stuff's coming together. You know, whether it's the technology now really driving efficiencies and productivity in sales, we're ready now. We've been talking about it for years. You know, there's been hundreds of sales tech companies out there. There's been assessment tools out there forever. There's been CRM tools out there forever. There's been content management, Savo type of systems out there forever. But now it's all coming together. And I think there's going to be a massive convergence in these things. I think capabilities are going to start coming together. And I think sales enablement will be the driver behind that. So for us, we're leading the way. I mean, we're seeing this happening. So now we're putting together sales methodology around CRM tools, around talent management and assessment tools, all built around this idea to develop the next generation of sales talent and sales leaders, because the sales leader piece cannot be forgotten. because that arguably is as much of a transformation as the sales person is as well.
If not more, right? I mean, I think if you look at it, today's sales leader in director level positions and above are 40 and older. That's you and I, right? We sat in doing sales a very different way 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago than the way it needs to be done today. And we sourced and recruited talent 5 years ago that needs to be different than the way we source and recruit talent today.
That's exactly right. And we both know this, and our CSO Insight business has the stat on this, but the amount of sales leaders that carried a bag, is such a high number. And if you look at the profile of when they carried a bag, that selling model is not the selling model today. It is very, very different. And so that gap that you're talking about is very real, very profound, and impacts the agility of a sales team to evolve.
Yeah.
Because if you have your front line stuck to a certain way, very specific in the way they do their one-on-ones, very specific in the way that they manage a pipeline, very specific way around they get involved in accounts, if that looks a certain way that does not match today's successful selling leader or selling model, you're going to have a hard time evolving that sales organization. Yeah. So that's a big thing we talk to clients all about, is start the transformation with your leaders. And that's hard to do because honestly, it's a very difficult discussion when you talk about putting in sales leaders that hadn't carried a bag, that aren't salespeople by trade. That's actually, they think you're crazy sometimes, but we just keep showing them the data about the most successful sales leaders today, look at their backgrounds, and it's not that person that carried a bag forever. Now, it doesn't mean that they haven't been involved in sales. It doesn't mean that they haven't done something, but just that mindset needs to get disconnected.
Yeah. You started talking about just a few minutes ago about tech and the convergence of all this technology. And you mentioned sales enablement as being the glue. Couldn't agree more. Unfortunately, there are many organizations that look at sales enablement and haven't put the value to sales enablement that it deserves, quite frankly.
True.
Talk a little bit about what role does tech play in sales enablement?
We have this point of view that sales enablement really drives the content, the training, and the coaching services in terms of all its leader development for a sales organization, but powered by technology. So because sales tech is so fragmented, and I'm sure you've seen that, all these different one-pagers that show all the different icons, and there's like 700 of them now, right? That are, I'm a new sales tech company. There's so many now, it's exploding. Well, it's all going to start converging. And so what's going to happen is we just came out with a sales ops study. The average company has 4 sales tech vendors in their ecosystem for their sales organization, right? That's getting to be too many. No salesperson's going to sit there and use 4 things effectively. So what's going to ultimately happen is there's going to be pressure to really bring this thing down to a single platform or single user experience that can still drive content services. Like, I need real-time content in this moment to inspire my customer. I might need, what if you, in your example, you actually had the dashboards or some examples and you were able to very quickly provide a tangible experience of the example that you provided your customer. There could be case studies that you could show or just content needed. Now, as a salesperson, you don't go develop that stuff. Heck no. You need it when you need it really quickly.
Yeah.
So that coming together with your CRM system and your methodology and your talent part. So all that's going to just start converging. And we think sales enablement will ultimately drive that because they're going to be tasked with solving broader issues that will bring these things together. And I think they're going to ultimately be pushing the industry around this convergence.
Yeah. So great example of what you just described. In that conversation, I walked away with this particular client, and there were 3 pieces of content that I knew would be of value to this particular buyer. Whether they buy from us or not, I know they're going to be of value in terms of the projects that he's working on. Now, if you think about it, our director of sales just came on board 60 days ago, or whatever it's been, 45 days ago. He wouldn't know that. And quite frankly, I'm the designer of a big portion of our content, so I understand that we've got this content, right? But the seller today needs that tool, that technology that can get out there and say, amongst all of our blog articles, all of our YouTube videos, amongst all of our, whatever the content channels are, whether it's public or vaulted, like private content, right? I need to be able to quickly pull in a case study about whatever it might be. I need to be able to quickly pull in a podcast that someone can listen to that answers the question of how to, whatever it might be, right? And I feel like that's missing. And I feel like the role of tech plays in sales enablement, that the sales enablement leader, to your point, is not just someone focused on the training, not just someone focused on the content, not just someone focused on aligning the marketing and the HR and the sales organizations, but someone who understands technology and can translate it into usable activities and practices that the salesperson needs every single day in their job.
Yeah, I think that is perfectly said. That was well articulated. And my take is I believe that the sales enablement professionals will be driving the market around this convergence. I think they're going to be demanding this because right now it's way too fragmented. Right now, there's just point solutions for these things. And they're all small businesses and they're all trying to like create their space. And ultimately it's too cluttered. And I think they're going to focus and kind of push this convergence around some single platforms that will allow this to happen. Now, our point of view is that what improves sales performance at a practical level is how they behave, is what they do every day. The decisions a salesperson makes around going to go get a meeting or information they're going to provide at that meeting or questions that they're going to ask in that meeting or strategies they're going to put in place for a specific account, whatever it might be, but it's behavior. It's like how you behave directly relates to performance. So in our world, a sales methodology, disconnected from technology or anything like that, but a sales methodology is all about optimizing behavior. It's about providing a strategy for winning a deal. Here's the people I need to get to know. I need to understand this decision-making process. I need to go get this information. And it outlines that view of all the things I need to go do. Putting that now into a set of technology, that's the way they interact. Now you can plug in things like, oh, by the way, here's the content you need for that meeting you just decided to go get. Or here are the very specific insights related to the last 3 deals you did that were based on activity and meetings and information you went to go get. Here's a very specific content. So bringing this stuff inside a methodology is how it breathes and how it actually lives. That's where I think the convergent point is going to be. That's what we believe strongly, that where CRM and content management and talent management all kind of moves into one single platform around behavior and methodology.
Yeah, so we recently just acquired what I call one of the hottest AI technologies on the planet, and it's Conversica. I don't know if you've heard of Conversica. It's the AI-enabled SDR bot. And I'm super pumped about Conversica. They've got some amazing results and some of the largest brand names that are out there. And Vengreso is actually in the middle of implementing that. But what's interesting is what you were just describing reminded me of a salesperson. I'm going to give a shout out here to Simi Kerr, K-A-U-R, if anybody's looking for her. Simi was just an amazing sales rep, like young, millennial. I'm pretty sure she's a millennial. Like I've never asked her age, but I'm pretty sure. And throughout the sales process, first off, to your point, we would not buy unless there was full integration into our CRM and marketing system. I needed to be able to say, I know that whatever it is that the bot is doing and out there and communicating and talking, that it actually is shown and displayed and it's talking to the marketing system and the sales system at the same time. That was step 1, basic integration 101. But to the point was it took us about 7 months or 8 months to go through this process. And throughout the entire process, one of the things that Simi did so well, which is what you speak to, Byron, is she would reach out and give us updates on where they were at in terms of the integration or this.
Yeah, exactly.
But what she would do is at the end of each email, and I'm actually looking at one right now as she talks about, she says, I was reaching out to you, wanted to give you an update about this. And oh, by the way, I ran into this, in this case, MIT study about lead response management. I thought you would find the advice and findings insightful and possibly even share some of the information with your customers. Here's the link, and here is what I took out of it. So she grabbed that. Now, I don't know whether or not she read the darn thing, but what was perfect was she knew exactly the thing that we were looking for was how to manage the leads coming into the funnel, how to manage the response. And she had a study that was not their content. It was somebody else's content that led me to that. Great. And every outreach that she made, she reached out with a new piece of information that would validate why, 1, we should buy, 2, what the issue and the problem was that we were facing, and 3, that helped me validate, should we buy? Should we buy? Right? As a buyer.
Yeah. Yeah, so think about that. So think about in the context of the way she behaves. So she's looking at you as an account, and she's thinking about, so in an account plan, through a methodology, you think about the challenges you have, the opportunities that you have, the threats that you have. There is some mutual agreement where you and she, like where you guys are taking this relationship. And through that, there are opportunities to share content. So imagine that this would come up. Your methodology would then link, where there would be some proactivity on content. Well, then imagine that she's only one person that you might be dealing with. There might be other vendors or other people that you deal with that also use the same methodology in the same cloud with the same data. They've also dealt with you. And so now that you have multiple people also talking to you, now sellers collaborate, and there's insights from how you grow an account versus how we grew this account. And some insights can now start coming up around managing you and managing your business and your account. Think about that on a deal level. I open up a deal to go sell something at McKesson, and there are 100 other people that have tried to do that same thing. And so, taking away names and being very careful about data privacy, you can still get trends from selling at McKesson. And those trends can provide insights into my methodology in terms of decision makers, how I need to be thinking about different things. And so that kind of stuff that's going to take CRM and completely change its interaction. Instead of it being I'm filling out a form, I'm going to interact with it in terms of how I behave. Then I'm going to plug in all these disparate other things like content and other things like that will now bring my experience together on a single platform.
Yeah. Content, case studies, white papers, videos, any of those types of things that bring it together, and that also are speaking to what it is that the buyer is trying to answer in their mind.
Exactly, right. Exactly. So, our methodology has this thing called win results. For every buying influence, what are their wins, their personal wins for the deal, and then what are their business results they're trying to get? Imagine if you cataloged all those different things by buying influence, right? You plug it into LinkedIn, you start getting them other information, and then there's insights from there around win and when you lose based on certain combinations of win results. There's just so many ways that AI and methodology will now drive the user interface of a CRM. And I think that will be the convergent platform across all these different sales enablement technology tools.
Wasn't CRM supposed to do that?
Yeah, I guess so.
What's the solution? What's out there that will help solve that problem?
That's hilarious. Well, I'll tell you what the solution is. It's Scout by Miller Heiman.
Scout? Wait, all right. I don't know what Scout is.
So I'll tell you, so we went through this whole branding exercise around, our big introduction to the CRM market with our technology-enabled methodology tools. And we ultimately came up with this idea of Scout as the name. And it's see the move that moves the deal. And it's this idea of insights, whether it's content, whether it's actual insights and telling you what to go do, to actually move the deal. So it's all about your partner. It's like your scout in trying to grow an account, prepare for a meeting, or win a deal. This is your partner. And they're out there in front trying to figure out where you should go. That's kind of how the whole branding around our product, which launches tomorrow, is all about.
So I want to come back to the product, but you said something that I think we can't glaze over this. See the move that moves the deal.
Yeah.
I'm writing a blog article. I'm going to steal that. You mind if I steal it?
Yeah, you can go with it.
All right. I'll attribute it to you, my friend. That's the name of sales. That's the name of the game right there, right? Yeah. See the move that moves the deal.
And that is the headline for the future of sales tech. I mean, seriously, just like what you said, you're going to show me some content and then your salesperson put you content. Well, I mean, it's all about something, finally technology, truly being your partner out there ahead, trying to figure out what will help improve the relationship on the account, maybe the thing I need to go to that moves this specific deal, or as I'm planning for this meeting, what questions and what things should I be thinking about? It is finally this thing that's ahead of the game, that's out there for you, scouting out what to do next. And that's, as we thought about our technology, that's what this whole thing's about.
That's brilliant. That's a great, number one, saying. And two, how many times we ask the question, this is the way we usually ask it as sales, what's it going to take to close a business? And usually you're looking for that one thing, right? But as we both know, it's not one thing that's going to close. It's a sequential set of moves.
Exactly right.
And funny as it may be, back to Simi at Conversica, I said to the leadership team, I said, look, I'm looking for real live sales reps that are in the field that have great stories. And your sales rep has no idea how great of an impact that she had on us for buying. Like, it just, you don't even understand, because that was the quintessential example of moving me through the process, not with their content, but with other people's content that answered my questions. So see the move. I'm going to have to name the podcast, See the Move That Moves the Deal. That's it.
Do it.
We're going that route, man. So do me a favor. Scout comes out.
Yep. Comes out tomorrow.
By the time we launch this, for those listening in, it's already been out.
Yeah. Its headliner is, it is a technology-enabled methodology. So what a methodology is, how you behave. Well, now we have built a piece of technology that facilitates that and actually provides you insights to navigate that methodology and helps you really think about the next move that changes the outcome of your deal.
And I assume,
or your account.
A technology-enabled methodology. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the methodology being the Miller Heiman methodology, right?
Correct. Yep. So we've taken our core methodologies and we've essentially built a CRM wrapper around all of them as the way you engage your CRM tool.
So a behavioral change for the seller mapped to the methodology that the technology supports.
Correct.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. By the way, guys, for those listening in, we'll put a link in the show notes to Scout. That's the product name, is Scout?
Yep.
So we'll put a link to the show notes here so that you can take a look at and reach out and get some information. So tell me, where will it be integrated into, or with what CRM platforms?
So we're CRM agnostics, obviously Salesforce, Dynamics, SAP, like we're able to integrate into any of these CRM systems. We have started a lot of our focus and majority of our focus with Salesforce, but at this point we can find a way to integrate it in any system. That's not the way we're thinking about it. We don't think about it as connected to a certain CRM. We think about this as the enabler of CRM, to be honest. Like, we think about
the front end.
Yeah, the very real adoption issues that CRM systems still have. 47% of organizations have 90% or better adoption. So that means that less than half are better than 90%. If you don't have at least 90% adoption, what's the good point of that forecast or that pipeline or that data you're requiring for that one-on-one? It's just not that reliable. So CRM adoption is still struggling because it's a technology-first tool. It's not built for the seller. It's built for the leaders or for the sales ops or for the report. CRM needs to change. It needs to be about the seller. When it's about the seller, where it's actually providing them insights for what to go do, how to behave, what data to provide, what insights to provide, what content to provide, what moves do I need to go make. When that's what it's about, I'm all over it every single day and every single day. I'm all over it all the time. And if as a byproduct of being all over it, I'm filling out CRM, I don't even know I'm doing it, CRM adoption goes up, leadership's happy, sellers are more successful. So we think this is the real win that moves CRM to the next phase in its life cycle.
Yeah, well, a great example of that is, look, I'm a selling CEO myself, and I just can't get off the front lines. I want to be in the trenches. I want to, understand. But I'll tell you this much, no matter what I fill out into HubSpot as an example, HubSpot's not smart enough to say, hey, by the way, did you follow up? And by the way, here's what you need to do in order to be able to see the move that moves the deal. Like, it's all incumbent upon me entering this data. And so I think if you've got a wrapper, which is what you just talked about, a wrapper that puts that methodology on the front end that is forcing me as a seller to create behavioral change without even realizing it. It's just part of the program. That can be nirvana.
That's exactly right. And a good example, in our pilots, we had a customer, one certain seller, in our methodology, in our sales methodology, we're big on developing a coach in your deal. And a coach is not somebody who just gives you information. A coach is someone who exclusively wants you to win and has influence with the person who's the economic buyer. So they're kind of hard to find. It's easy to find people to give you information, but it's harder to find someone that exclusively wants you to win and has influence. But you got to develop these people. They don't come on an org chart. You don't get the org chart and say, oh, here's a coach. Got to develop them. This individual rep wasn't great at developing coaches because they're hard conversations. Like, you've got to find out, do you exclusively want us to win? Like, you got to find that out. Sometimes hard to do. It takes a little courage to ask a certain type of question. So he had a pattern of losing at a certain point in the process because he didn't necessarily have a coach. And so Scout said to him, hey, you have a user buyer who's a perfect candidate for a coach. You've lost your last 3 deals. You need to go meet with this person and begin developing a coach. Here is some content for you to think about to get them closer so you can ultimately start developing a coach. Had to signal something off to their manager, so the next one-on-one to say, hey, on this one deal, which by the way is in your forecast, doesn't have a coach, Jim needs to go develop that coach. I put it in his action item, follow up with him in the next meeting. And so Jim opens up Scout, sees that, okay, there's Scout's recommending that I actually meet with this person, help them think about developing a coach. Here's some content for him. He can accept or reject it, of course. It's Scout's ability to give him some insight into what he's going to do. His leader has that insight. And Jim went ahead and took that responsibility, did it. Ultimately, 2 weeks later, had those discussions, provided that content. Coming out of that meeting, client sends him an email. He responds. Client says, you know what? You guys are the ones that we actually need. Validated that was a coach. Then Scout recommended using that coach to get to the economic buyer to position the product. And then 2 weeks later after that, they won the deal. So it's the technology seeing patterns specific to how you behave against methodology that suggests how you behave and provides insights on actions to go take, connecting the sales leader in the process. That is something useful. So that as a seller, I would want to engage and see, when am I losing? When am I winning? What is Scout thinking about I should be doing on deals? And as it starts to learn me more and starts to get my patterns and I get training on demand and that kind of stuff. And as I'm filling all the stuff in, it happens to fill out Salesforce. I don't even know it. All goodness for both Salesforce, for us, for the client. It's all good.
So without going too much into my excitement over your new product launch here, for all of our listeners, 2 questions. Is it AI-based technology?
Yeah.
Okay. And question number 2 is, do I have to have gone through the Miller Heiman sales training program in order to be able to leverage the platform?
So here's what we've done. Starting tomorrow, every single time you buy one of our methodologies, we are providing Scout as part of the product. So it's no longer a separate thing. One is the other. So the methodology is the technology. The technology is the methodology. It comes with it.
There you go. Brilliant. Fantastic job. Well, we promised everybody that you would give us something good. You'd have to top your first podcast here on Selling with Social.
I've not been thinking of this.
I know you haven't, but I wrote it down. And I said you had a top. And so this
is such a PG show, though.
You can go PG-13 if you want. All right, PG-17.
No. We're keeping it a PG. Geez, man. Geez.
Tell us something nobody would know about you.
Here's my problem. Here's the problem with this. Let me just state the problem first. I know this is a bit of an out, but I can't top 3 thumbs. I mean, I could say stuff like I'm a dual citizen of a different country, like stuff like that, which is interesting. But I mean, is it better than having 3 thumbs? It's not. So I'm going to tell you that I'm sticking with 3 thumbs, and that's just going to have to carry 2 interviews. Just going to have to. It's going to have to be good enough for 2.
Good enough.
I'm not going to give you some lame thing. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to do it.
You can't.
I'm sticking with 3 thumbs.
Well, it still stands as the best one yet. An unexpected answer to a standard question that I asked. Fantastic. But you are dual citizen. So which 2 countries?
I am a dual citizen. Canada. My dad was from Prince Edward Island, and he was one of 13 kids, and his middle name was Bonus. And he grew up in a lobster fishing. I mean, all like a third of the lobster in the world comes from PEI, right? So everyone fishes for lobster. And they had the cannery in their backyard. And so all the kids worked the cannery. They'd go out and fish and get all the lobsters, bring in the cannery. And so I got lobster in my blood.
Yeah. So I take it you eat lobster then?
All the time, yeah. I get them shipped from PEI in boxes, and we let them out the kitchen, and they run around in the kitchen, and then we throw them in the thing, and they steam, and then awesome.
All right. Well, when you have an extra box of lobsters, feel free to send it over my way because I love it.
Deal.
Fantastic. Byron Matthews, it's been a freaking pleasure having you on Selling with Social again, my friend. That was a fantastic conversation. And if anybody wants to get a hold of you, can they connect on LinkedIn, tweet you?
Of course they can.
What's the best
way? Connect on LinkedIn, go to our website, take a look at Scout, all the good stuff.
I love it.
You want to assess your people, talk to us, whatever it takes.
There you go. Well, we've had such a pleasure having you on. And by the way, you have set the record now for the only person outside of our Vengreso team, the only person who we've had twice now in a 1 year's period. So congratulations to that.
Deal. Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining me on that episode of Selling with Social. I hope you found as much value in that episode as I did. Here's what I want you to do next. Please go to www.vengreso.com. That's VENGRESO.com. VENGRESO.com. And make sure that you get access to our content. We've got the latest and greatest in digital sales, sales training, content marketing, and social selling strategies that are going to help you grow your sales pipeline. I look forward to having you on the next show of Selling with Social. Make sure you also go to vengreso.com/podcast to be able to get access to the latest and greatest Selling with Social episodes, along with any of the other episodes that we've got from Social Business Engines with my friend and partner, Bernie Borges. Thanks again for joining on Selling with Social.